Hello PEI, welcome to this week's episode that for anyone facing an age-related move or who have family who is at or nearing that point, well, this episode is one you absolutely want to listen to. Mike Montague, our show creator and producer, is a 26-year veteran realtor who knows the situation and how to manage it as well as anyone, having assisted many clients and families through this very situation over his years.
Yeah, that is such a crucial setup because we're really looking at a dual mission today with the source materials we've pulled together.
Right, because we're looking at this from two completely different angles, aren't we?
Exactly. I mean, if you're the aging homeowner right now, this deep dive is, well, it's your strategy guide for keeping control. You know, making the legally binding decisions now while you're fully capable.
So a judge doesn't end up making them for your family later.
Precisely. And on the flip side, if you're the adult child who's stepping into that caregiving role, you need to consider this your operational playbook.
Yeah, because you definitely do not want to be getting a crash course in complex real estate law while you're actively grieving a parent.
No, you really don't. It's just a recipe for disaster.
So let's start by unpacking the legal foundation here. Before anyone can even talk about cleaning out the gutters or hiring a real estate agent, we have to establish who actually has the legal authority to make those decisions. And I was reading through the new PEI regulations, and there was a massive shift that just took place.
Yeah, the November 2025 shift.
Right. So what exactly happened there? Because it seems like it completely changed the game.
It really did. It's the PEI Powers of Attorney and Personal Directives Act, and it overhauled the entire system because the previous legal framework, it actually had this massive, really dangerous blind spot when it came to a person's agency.
Wait, how big of a blind spot are we talking about here? Because, I mean, if a family had a power of attorney drafted back in, say, 2023, didn't that document just cover everything?
Well, no. And that's the scary part. It covered the money, but it completely ignored the person.
Oh.
Yeah. So under the old rules, a power of attorney was strictly a financial instrument. You could, legally access a parent's checking account or pay their property taxes.
Right, the financial stuff.
Exactly. Or even authorize the sale of their home. But if your parent needed to move into a specialized memory care facility, or they needed a specific type of daily medical care, you actually didn't have a parallel legal document that gave you the authority to make those lifestyle decisions.
Wait, hold on. So, as the adult child, under the old rules, I could legally sell my mother's house to fund her care,
Yes.
but I couldn't legally sign the intake forms to actually move her into the nursing home?
That is exactly right.
That seems completely backwards.
It was incredibly backwards. I mean, it forced families into these terrible, agonizing situations. Because when a parent lost capacity under that old system, adult children routinely found themselves having to actually petition the court.
Just to get permission to make basic health care choices.
Basic health care and housing choices? Yeah. It was a nightmare. So the new 2025 Act, it fixes this dysfunction by introducing what's called the personal directive.
Okay, the personal directive.
Right. And this allows an individual to name an agent explicitly for personal care and lifestyle decisions. So it creates this legal shield that operates completely separate from the financial side.
Okay, so let me put myself in the listener's shoes for a second. Let's say I'm looking at my parents' file folder right now, and all the legal documents are stamped from, 2022.
Okay.
Does the new law automatically update their old paperwork to include these new lifestyle protections?
Unfortunately, no, it does not.
Oh, man. So what do they need to do?
Anyone who is holding documents that predate November 2025 needs to sit down with an estate lawyer, immediately. It's usually just a 5-minute consultation.
Right, just to verify.
Exactly, to verify if the existing setup actually covers those lifestyle decisions under the new framework. Because assuming your old paperwork just magically functions in a new legal landscape, that's a fast way to freeze your family's assets.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly stressful. Okay, let's stick with the legal mechanics for a second, because there's this specific term that kept popping up in our source materials, the enduring power of attorney.
Yes, the enduring clause.
Yeah, I really need to unpack this, because the way a standard power of attorney works, it honestly seems like a trap.
It can be if you don't understand it.
Right, because my understanding is that a standard POA is essentially like an umbrella that magically disappears the exact second it starts raining.
That is a perfect analogy. Let's explore the mechanism behind that for a second. Because a standard power of attorney, it allows someone to act on your behalf while you are still fully capable.
Okay, so if I'm traveling overseas and I need someone to sign real estate documents for me back in Charlottetown?
Exactly. You're perfectly fine mentally, you're just not physically there.
But the moment I lose mental capacity, like
Right.
the moment I actually need someone to take over my affairs because I can't physically or mentally do it myself anymore.
The document terminates instantly.
Instantly.
Instantly. Because without explicit enduring language, the law views a standard power of attorney like a basic contract.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And if one party loses the mental capacity to uphold a contract, that contract becomes void. So all that authority you thought you granted just evaporates into thin air.
Which totally defeats the entire purpose of doing the estate planning in the first place.
Exactly. That is why the enduring clause is quite literally the most critical element. The document must contain specific legal phrasing stating that the authority survives the principal's loss of capacity.
Wow.
Yeah, that single sentence is the difference between a smooth transition of power and an absolute legal nightmare for your children.
Okay, but that brings up a really practical question. Who decides when capacity is actually lost? Because, I mean, I'm just picturing a bunch of siblings sitting around a kitchen table, right, arguing over whether dad is starting to slip.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time.
Right. And that can't be how the legal mechanism works?
No, thankfully it isn't. The 2025 Act really strips away all that ambiguity. Capacity is no longer treated as this vague family consensus.
Okay, so how is it defined?
It is defined legally as the specific ability to understand information relevant to a decision and the ability to appreciate the reasonably foreseeable consequences of making or not making that decision.
Okay, so it's tied to the specific action.
Exactly.
So, like, dad might not be capable of managing a complex stock portfolio anymore, but he still has the capacity to decide if he wants to move into an assisted living facility.
Precisely. The law treats capacity as task-specific. You evaluate the individual based on the specific choice in front of them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. Someone might completely fail to grasp the tax implications of selling a rental property, but they can clearly understand the physical consequences of moving out of their lifelong home.
Right, right. But, okay, what happens if he completely loses that capacity across the board and we didn't get this enduring power of attorney set up in time? Because I want to understand the friction of the backup plan here.
Well, the backup plan is what we call guardianship or trusteeship. If no valid document exists, the court has to step in to protect the vulnerable person.
Okay, I've heard the term guardianship, but what does that actually look like, on a Tuesday afternoon? Like, how much friction are we really talking about?
It is a massive, exhausting undertaking.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. You have to hire lawyers, you have to gather formal medical assessments, and then you have to formally apply to a judge in a public forum just to be granted control over your own parent's life.
Oh, wow. So it's very public.
It is. It's essentially a public declaration of incompetence. And it doesn't end there. The court then actively supervises your actions going forward.
You mean like tracking your spending?
Yes, you are filing annual reports. You're justifying minor expenses to the court. It's adversarial. It costs thousands of dollars, and it takes months to establish.
Months.
Months. And meanwhile, the heating bills are piling up, the medical decisions are paused, and the house is just sitting empty.
So the clear directive here is to avoid that at all costs and get these documents drafted immediately.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming, just downloading a free PDF from the internet isn't going to cut it in PEI.
No, please do not do that. Internet forms routinely fail because they don't meet PEI's strict execution requirements regarding, like, witnesses and specific jurisdictional clauses.
All right, so you need a real lawyer.
They need to be lawyer drafted. And furthermore, they need to be treated as a single unified project alongside your will and your healthcare directive. And when you choose the person for this role, you have to base it on trust and proximity.
Proximity is interesting because people usually just pick their oldest child.
Oh, they do, out of a sense of tradition. But choosing your oldest child, even if they live in Vancouver and are terrible with money, that is a profound mistake. You need someone who is capable and close by.
Okay, that makes total sense. So let's shift gears a bit and look at the timeline. We've established the authority while the parent is alive. The umbrella is open, it's enduring, everything is great.
Right.
But eventually the homeowner passes away. The moment that happens, does the enduring power of attorney just keep working?
It hits a hard stop.
A hard stop.
The instant the homeowner passes away, all power of attorney authority vanishes forever. Period.
Wow.
Yeah, you transition from acting on behalf of a living person to dealing with a brand new legal entity, which is the estate.
So wait, I can't just keep writing checks from my mom's checking account to pay for the funeral or the property taxes?
No. The bank will freeze the accounts the moment they are notified of the death. Which brings us to a major fork in the road regarding the real estate itself. Because whether you can sell the house easily or whether you are stuck in legal limbo for months, that depends entirely on how the property title is held.
Okay, let's get into that.
We are looking at the difference between joint tenancy and tenants in common.
See, to me, those sound like two different flavors of the exact same legal jargon. How do these actually function in the real world?
Okay, let's use the concept of two tickets to a show.
Okay.
Joint tenancy is like having two names printed on a single ticket. It's the most common structure for married couples. If one spouse passes away, the survivor still holds the ticket.
Ah, okay, through that right of survivorship thing.
Exactly. Through the right of survivorship, the surviving spouse automatically absorbs full ownership. The property never enters the estate, and zero probate is required to sell that home.
It just smoothly transitions. That's great. So what about tenants in common?
Tenants in common is like holding two completely separate tickets. So let's say a parent and an adult child buy a property together, each owning an undivided 50%.
Right.
If the parent passes away, their 50% ticket doesn't automatically jump to the child. It freezes.
Oh.
Yeah, it becomes part of the parent's estate, and you have to go through the whole probate process before you can legally transfer or sell that half of the house.
Okay, let's examine probate then. Because if I am the executor in PEI, I have to go through the estates section of the Supreme Court in Charlottetown, right, to get this document called letters probate.
Correct.
And the timelines in the source materials completely threw me off. If I live on the island, I only have 30 days to apply for probate once I know I'm the executor.
That is what the regulations dictate, yes.
Yeah.
You have 30 days to apply if you reside in the province and 3 months if you live outside of PEI.
That seems impossibly fast. I mean, what if the house is a disaster zone? What if the family is grieving and we simply can't handle sorting through decades of belongings, interviewing lawyers, and dealing with the court in just 30 days?
Well, the panic there is totally understandable. But we need to look at how the mechanics of this role actually play out. You don't have to freeze your life while waiting for a stamped piece of paper from the judge in Charlottetown.
Okay.
That timeline applies strictly to initiating the application, not having the entire estate wrapped up and finished.
But how can I even start the process of selling the house if the court hasn't officially stamped me as the executor? Like, if I don't have the letters probate yet, what am I physically allowed to do?
Under your initial authority as the named executor in the will, you can start the groundwork immediately. You can enter the house, you can clean it out, secure the valuables, gather documents.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can even hire a real estate agent and list the property on the open market.
Wait, I can put the for sale sign in the yard without the final court document.
You absolutely can. You can sign the listing agreement and market the property. The crucial barrier comes later, at the closing table.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the buyer's lawyers will absolutely demand the letters probate before they allow the title to transfer, because they need undeniable proof that you have the legal right to sell. So the strategy here is to plan the lifting and marketing around the probate timeline, not the other way around.
Okay, so if I list the house today, I just make sure the closing date is pushed out, 3 months or whatever timeline my lawyer says the Charlottetown court needs to process the paperwork.
Exactly. That is the timeline hack. You market the property while the court processes the paperwork in the background.
Okay, but that brings up a massive financial friction point in my mind. If I don't have access to the estate's bank accounts yet because we're waiting on that probate paperwork, how am I supposed to pay the court fees? Or the lawyers? I mean, am I fronting thousands of dollars from my own personal checking account just to do my job as executor?
That is a pervasive myth, and it causes immense unnecessary stress.
So I don't have to pay out of pocket.
No. Probate fees in PEI are calculated based on the total value of the estate, and they are paid directly out of the estate's assets.
But the accounts are frozen.
Right. While the accounts might be frozen for general use, banks will typically release funds directly to the court or to a law firm to cover probate fees and funeral expenses. You just have to present the original will and the death certificate. You do not need to drain your own savings.
Oh, well, that is a huge relief. Okay, so legal authority is moving through the court. The fees are handled. Now we are standing in the physical house. It's empty, it's full of 1980s floral wallpaper, and there's this aging oil furnace in the basement.
Classic.
Right. Do I spend estate money to fix it up, or do I list it as is and just walk away?
This is where you have to separate your emotional attachment from the hard economics of the estate. The as-is sale is a specific financial tool.
How so?
You deploy it when the estate urgently needs liquidity or when the beneficiaries live far away. I mean, trying to manage a flooring contractor in Summerside when you live in Toronto is a logistical nightmare.
Not to mention the risk of all the heirs getting into a massive fight over, like, renovation choices.
Exactly. Speed reduces conflict. If the family dynamic is strained, an as-is sale distributes the assets quickly and closes the chapter.
Right.
But on the other hand, if the family communicates well and the house is structurally sound, you look at what we call light updates. We're talking fresh paint, replacing worn carpets, and intense decluttering. Cosmetic work often narrows the gap between the asking price and the final appraisal.
But here is where we really have to factor in something completely unique to PEI, the island winter. Because the math on an as-is sale changes drastically when we hit November, doesn't it?
Oh, the winter wrinkle changes the calculation entirely. An empty house in January isn't just a repository of family memories. It is an active liability that is consuming estate funds every single day.
Let's run the actual math out loud, because I think people severely underestimate this carrying cost.
They really do. Okay, let's assume a standard 4-bedroom home. First, you have to keep the heat on at a minimum of 15 degrees, or the pipes freeze, burst, and flood the foundation.
Which is incredibly expensive with heating oil right now.
Exactly. Then you have to hire a plow service to clear the driveway every time it snows. Otherwise, emergency services or real estate agents can't even access the property. And then there's the vacant home insurance.
Let's talk about that insurance mechanism, because why does standard home insurance suddenly stop working just because the owner passed away?
Because standard insurance is priced on the assumption that someone is physically home to mitigate damage.
Right.
Think about it. If a pipe leaks while you are watching TV, you walk downstairs and turn off the main water valve.
Yeah.
It's a $500 fix.
Sure.
But if the house is vacant and a pipe leaks, it runs continuously for 3 weeks. That turns into a $50,000 claim. So because the risk profile skyrockets, insurance companies will void a standard policy if a house is vacant for a specific period, often just 30 days. You are legally forced to buy specialized vacant home insurance.
Which is notoriously expensive.
Right. Extremely expensive. Plus, they usually require someone to physically check on the house every 72 hours. So when you add the inflated heating oil costs, the snow clearing, and the premium vacant insurance, you could easily be draining $1,500 to $2,000 a month from the estate just to keep the building standing.
Wow, think about that. If the family says, hey, let's wait to sell until the spring market, we might get an extra $5,000 on the asking price, they are actually losing money because they'll spend $8,000 on carrying costs over the winter.
That calculation is exactly what an executor needs to do with their real estate agent. Sometimes, taking a slightly lower offer in November leaves the beneficiaries with significantly more net cash than holding out until May.
Which leads us perfectly into the practical realities of being an executor. Let's debate a scenario. Say I live in Stratford, about 10 minutes from my mom's house. My brother lives in Vancouver. I decide the kitchen needs painting to help the sale, so I hire a contractor for $2,000. It's estate money. It's going to increase the property value. That's a reasonable move, isn't it?
That is the fastest way to trigger a lawsuit.
Really? Just for painting?
Yes. Unilateral decision-making is the root of almost every single estate dispute. As the executor, you have a fiduciary duty to communicate transparently with all the beneficiaries. Even if you're objectively correct about the paint increasing the home's value, spending estate funds without consensus breeds deep suspicion.
So the rule is absolute transparency. Like, keep every receipt, send every invoice to the group text.
Yes. Document the heating bill, the snowplow invoice, the insurance premium. You must account for every single penny.
What about the pricing strategy? Because I know what my parents paid for the house in 1995, and I know what the neighbor sold for during the peak of the market in 2021.
The market today does not care about 1995, and it certainly doesn't care about the pandemic peak.
Right.
Executors are deeply prone to emotional anchoring. You must get a current professional opinion of value, and you just have to detach your memories from the drywall.
I noticed another trap in the research regarding the professionals we hire. The lawyer handling the probate and the real estate agents selling the house. If I just let them do their own things on their own schedules, I'm setting myself up for failure, aren't I?
The biggest avoidable delays happen when those two professionals are siloed.
How so?
Well, imagine the real estate agent finds a buyer who wants to close in 30 days, but the lawyer knows the court in Charlottetown has a 3-month backlog for letters probate. The deal collapses.
So the real estate agent needs to be talking directly to the estate lawyer.
From day one, the agent's listing timeline and closing negotiations must be firmly anchored to the lawyer's legal timeline.
There's one more legal misconception I really want to clear up. The physical title to the property. Do I, as the executor, have to transfer my dad's house into my own personal name before I can legally sell it to a buyer? Because that seems like a mountain of unnecessary paperwork.
It is entirely unnecessary. You rarely need to transfer the title into your own name.
Oh.
Yeah, the letters probate we keep mentioning, those act as your golden ticket. That court document proves you have the authority to sign the deed over to the new buyer directly from the estate. Trying to transfer it to yourself first just wastes time and money.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from the new 2025 Powers of Attorney Act and the danger of standard POAs, all the way through the mechanics of probate, the financial drain of an island winter, and the absolute necessity of transparent communication.
We really have. And when we pull all these threads together, we arrive right back at the very first legal concept we discussed, which is capacity. We define it as the ability to appreciate the reasonably foreseeable consequences of a decision.
Right, the ability to look ahead and understand what your choices actually mean.
Which forces us to ask a difficult question. If legal capacity is defined as the ability to foresee consequences, how often do perfectly healthy, fully capable families completely fail to foresee the massive financial and emotional destruction of simply delaying these conversations?
Wow.
By avoiding an awkward Sunday afternoon talk about estate plans and enduring powers of attorney, families unwittingly engineer a crisis for the people they love the most. Exercising true capacity means seeing that reality and making the hard decisions today.
That is a powerful thought to leave on. I want to close thanking Mike again and reminding listeners to check the link in the comments to obtain a free yet invaluable copy of Coming Home to What's Next, a guide to downsizing, transitioning, and selling a parent's home. A valuable resource, be it your scenario or that of a parent.